With the historic Dragon Ball Sparking Zero just 4 days away, we're all extremely excited for the game to come out and we cannot wait for that day. However, it's time to discuss some very important things about the game before it comes out, and today we're going to be covering the character battle types or archetypes that define characters in Sparking Zero. Now these are 5 different categories that each character in the roster has been assigned to, and today we're going to be discussing the strengths and weaknesses of each character type and why you might want to use them. Now, the 5 categories in mind today are the Strength type, Speed type, Ki Blast type, Giant type, and finally Android type. The Strength character has the pros of Heavy Strikes. Now, Heavy Strikes means it's easy for them to stagger their opponent, right? Generally, their strikes hit so hard that you have a stun animation and you can do a lot off of that. You can start combos, or you can just knock your opponent back and get a jump on them by charging your ki or something, right? Moving on, there's the higher damage inflicted. So all of their moves, their super attacks, blast attacks, strike attacks, they all do a lot more damage than the typical character. And finally, they also have stagger resist. So they have a level of super armor from ki blast and smash attacks from other characters. However, they do have a weakness, and that is slower movement. So you can expect these type of characters to be super strong and absolute powerhouses, but they will be a little slower to use and a little more clunky. Examples of these characters include Jiren, Broly, and Final Form Cooler. Moving on, we have the Speed type character, and the strengths of these characters are they will have high mobility, so it'll be easy to use them. You can run around with them, and usually you can do a lot of string combos with them, as well as knockback combos, like the ones where you keep knocking them around. Yeah, the Speed characters will have an easier time doing that simply because of how fast they are. Their next strength is rush combos are hard to interrupt. So their combos are very fast, and like I said, it's not going to be easy to get out of them, and it's going to be hard to recover because of their raw speed. However, they do have a weakness, and that weakness is that they do have lower damage than the typical character. This type of character requires a higher level of skill to play because of the low damage and the high mobility. You need to understand how this character works and how to play around your opponent, right? You're pretty much going to be dancing around your opponent. That's kind of what the Speed character is, and it does require a good amount of skill to play. Examples of this character are Birder and Kakunsa. Moving on, there's Ki Blast characters, and the pros of these characters are that they have high speed or mobility. Similar to Speed characters, they can move around quite easily, but not as well. It's more like to maneuver around your opponent and keep shooting Ki Blasts at them to stun them and annoy them. It's a more annoying playing style, maybe not as annoying as the Speed type, but it is like one of those types where you're not always up close and personal because your strengths are from a range. They also have high damage. Typically from their Ki Blast attacks, they can do a lot of damage, and it's good for you to stay at range so you can keep shooting these out. They also have great ki management because their super attacks typically take less ki than the typical attack. They can also overwhelm opponents with constant ranged attacks, so if you let them stay at range, it might be hard to close the distance and they might take over the fight because you can't do anything to them from range. However, they do have a weakness, and it is that they are weak within the close range. So strength type characters, if they get in real close, it'll make the fight a lot easier for them because the Ki Blast characters are just a lot stronger from range. They want to constantly charge their energy and get ready to launch an attack from range. Examples of these characters are Vegeta and most of his forms, as well as Frieza. Next up, there is Giant type characters. Now this type character doesn't need much of an explanation. You guys can probably imagine what type of characters these are, and their pros are that they have very high strike damage, they stagger opponents easily, they have very high strike damage, so being up close and personal with them might not be the way to go about it unless you're a strength type character who can actually go toe to toe with these giant characters. But also their grabs with their super armor can be really annoying and hard to avoid. They can also stagger their opponents really easily. It's hard for these giant type characters to get staggered to begin with, so for them to stagger you is a lot easier also because of their raw size. And they're also mostly resistant to physical and rush attacks and have a great amount of super armor. So these characters will definitely be quite annoying to face. However, they do have a few weaknesses, and that is that they have slow movement, so it's going to be harder to dodge a lot of attacks, and they're prone to Ki Blasts from range. Again, they're big size, they have a huge hitbox, and they're easy to hit. Examples of these characters are Hirudegan, Great Apes like Great Ape Baby, Great Ape Vegeta. Next up, we have Android type characters, and these characters have benefits of high damage. They do a lot of damage overall, and it's to make up for the fact that they have the slow recovering key, and they have constant pressure as one of their pros, because the thing is, you're not going to be charging your energy, and your opponent, if they're not an Android type, they need to charge their energy. They need to get away, charge energy, and get ready to come back, because key is everything in this game. To teleport, to do counters, to even like launch super attacks that give you an advantage in battle. As an Android, you have no real incentive for that, because you really can't charge your key, right? So you can keep pressuring them, and typically AIs in BT games that have this Android feature are absolute menaces, because they just don't stop. They're non-stop, right? And these characters also have the ability to typically absorb key blasts, so launching a key blast from range will not work, and they usually do counter key blast characters quite easily. But yeah, there are weaknesses to this character, and that is that there's a difficult learning curve, as relying on super attacks is not an option, and it requires a lot of skill to play these type of characters, as well as understand the fundamentals of constant pressure, right? If you're playing these characters and you're constantly getting countered, yeah, that won't really work. Another con of this character is the restricted and one-dimensional playstyle. So they're very one-dimensional, and once you understand the fighting pattern of the constant pressure, you can constantly set them up for counters, so it can't constantly pressure you, and you can also do follow-ups, right? You can do counters into super attacks, and it'll be a great price to pay if they keep rushing you and fall into your trap constantly. Examples of these characters are Android 13 and Android 17 to 20, as well as I think Metal Cooler, if I'm not wrong. So if you guys like this video, do hit the subscribe button and like for more Sparking Zero content. When the game comes out, I'll be launching constant videos, so you guys do stay tuned for that. If you want to see more of my content, click on this video right on the screen if you're interested to learn more about transformations. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.